Assalamu alaikum. I hope you're doing well. So the accusation or the charge that most Muslims are engaged in a form of shirk or taking on co-equals or co-opting false sources of divinity besides the one true God, Allah. That charge is not a light charge. It's not a light accusation. To say that a person who calls himself a Muslim is a mushrik. But it's a painful thing. It's a painful thing for me also. But if you prepare to look at the next few minutes at what I have to offer you and what I want to tell you, then you must decide whether that charge is false, to say that Muslims are in actual fact mushrikeen. And I know many of you will take offense at that statement. But let's start, as always, from the sacred text that we all agree on, from the holy Mus'haf, from the Qur'an, from the direct speech and word of God that we as Muslims all unite from. And we know the Qur'an says, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ, and let us then hold fast to that rope, which is the Qur'an. Now I want to show you a verse, and at any point, if you disagree with me, if I make any mistake in my reasoning, please point it out in the comments for me. Help me, guide me if you feel that I'm losing the plot. But let's start with the Qur'an. We all agree on the Qur'an, don't we? So it says here, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Do they not reflect on this rendition, on this Qur'an? Had it been from other than God, they would find many discrepancies therein. لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Now that verse is not it's not ambiguous, it's not difficult, it's not mutashabihah, it is clear, there is no parable, there is no analogy, it just says a simple logical phrase that look at this Quran, look at the words, look at the rendition, look at it. Had it been from other than Allah, from God, they would find contradictions, discrepancies. Now, what is a discrepancy? So let's just quickly, I need to lay this down because it's going to help me in the next part of what I want to offer to you. Now, if there were a discrepancy is a contradiction. It is something that doesn't tally, is when you add up the numbers that comes to the wrong total. You know, you involved in accounting and bookkeeping. A discrepancy means the left side does not equal the right side. The income doesn't equal the expenses. And there is no compromise. You see, in accounting, the left side must exactly correspond to the right. All your income must agree with all your expenditure. Right? So that is, and there's no room for error. There's no saying, look, it's only 100,000 or it's only 1,000,000, and so we can, no. There has to be absolute correspondence. And we hold God, obviously, to the supreme standard, because if we do accounting, our accounting is very human, subject to failure, it's prone to mistake. But God is not prone to error and mistake. Right? So that is the first point I want to make, is that there must be absolute consistency, no contradiction, zero, not 1%, not 0.5%, zero discrepancy in the book. And that is the standard we apply to the Qur'an. Now, the Qur'an, now I want to take you on a small little bit of logical reasoning. And logical reasoning is natural to us. We feel comfortable when things make sense. Now here's something I want to tell you. Look at this verse here and tell me if you agree with me if I say that if a book careful now, stay with me here. If a book does contain discrepancies, if I pick up a book and I give it to you and I say to you, this is a divine book, say the Bhagavad Gita, or let's say the New Testament or the Old Testament, or the sayings of Confucius or whatever, or the sayings of Marcus Aurelius, that whatever. If I give you any book of wisdom and you find a discrepancy between on page 2 and on page 1000. On page 2 it says something, and on page 1000 it says the opposite. On page 2 it says, do not eat pork. I'm just taking an example. And on page 1000 it says, you may eat it now. Right? So would you say, and I mean, there's no other conditions, it basically just comes out as a clear contradiction. Or it says 1 plus 1 is 2, and on page 999 it says 1 plus 1 is 3. Right? And I'm not referring to any contextual errors, where the words are being misquoted or anything. Tell me if you agree with me that in such a case, you will have to declare the book as being not divine. Is it not so? I mean, is it not so? If clearly the words don't tally, there's no consistency, there's a contradiction, there's a discrepancy. Now we need to be very, very honest, and we need to apply that same standard to the Qur'an. And the Qur'an, in fact, being 1400 years in existence, copies going back 1400 years, probably the oldest copy, we cannot find a decent, credible exposition of the Qur'an as containing any contradictions or discrepancies. There is nothing, and the Qur'an has opinions on many things, of nature, of the cosmos, of the origin, of incidents in the life of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi wa ala alihi salam. And so the book has many comments, many commentary, many positions, many statements on so many things, and you could probably pull out 1,000 different issues which the Quran issues a statement or an opinion on. Not one of them contradicts each other. Yeah, some people say, but the Quran says wine and gambling, you shouldn't go to the salah. Well, no, there are no contradictions. It always says wine and gambling are the tools of the devil. It always says it's the tools of the devil. Like also it says gossiping is bad, backbiting. It admits that it will still be a practice. It will still be in existence. Right? So there's no contradiction. Right. So let's move on. I think you can agree with me that if the Quran is a book free of contradictions, that's why we claim it to be divine. Now, if any book does contain contradictions, then we must admit that it is not divine. It is not divine. So now I'm going to take the argument to the next step, and that is, if we look at the source of Islam, the source of beliefs, the source of religious or sacred beliefs that Muslims have constructed, because Muslims construct their religion from the Quran. That is how it should be. We construct our beliefs, our sacred practices, whatever is sacred and holy and important to us and central to us, we derive from the Quran. But now Muslims, and this is now where the initial point of this video comes in, where I said that I want to unfortunately point out to you that the charge of shirk is not a false charge. Muslims have chosen to embrace and adopt a second book, a second source of literature. Now, the second book is much bigger than the Quran. The second book is authored by various humans, right? Not prophets, like people, but ascribed to prophets. So the second book says the Prophet said so, but it is not written by the Prophet. It's written by men, written 300 years after the Prophet. And Muslims have raised those books and have declared those books to be on a par with the Qur'an. Now, in those books, there are a myriad, there are a countless set of additional sacred practices, beliefs, and just things that we don't find in the Quran. Now we need to make a decision. Is the second book, the second corpus, the second body of literature, is it sacred? Now Muslims say yes, it is. Hadith, when somebody says Bukhari, when somebody says in Sahih Bukhari, it comes with an aura of sacredness, of reverence. And we don't speak about hadith just like that. It's sacred, the sacred hadith. And we add another word, the word sunnah. It is the sunnah. We believe in the Qur'an and in the sunnah. Now, my friends, yes, if you're still with me, then I'm here to help you think through it, or to help me if I'm wrong, right? That is the point of this. Now, if we apply the same, if you say it is divine, if you say the Sunnah, the Hadith is divine, it is also a source of divine law. And you may be qualified by saying the Sahih, the Hadiths that are Sahih, not the weak Hadiths, because that is also the argument is that, listen, Anwar, you want to mix the weak Hadiths and the strong Hadiths, and you want to make them all like the same. No, they're not all. My friends, let us just talk about the Sahih Hadiths now. Now, a Sahih Hadith, what is a Sahih Hadith? A Sahih Hadith is not a Hadith which many companions of the Prophet heard and wrote down and reported. No. A Sahih Hadith, 99.9% of the Sahih, of the Hadith that are called Sahih, are in fact what is called the Khabar Ahad. It is called a solitary narration. Now, what is a solitary narration? A solitary narration is an action, a acquiescence, or an expression cited from the Prophet. So it is an incident. The word hadith, in fact, means incident. It is an incident in the speech, the practice, or in the reaction of the Prophet that is recorded by a Sahabi. Now, the Sahabi is somebody who is in the company of the Prophet, a person who spent his part of his life in the company of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam wa ala alihi. So that is a hadith. That is a Sahih Hadith. Is something that is an incident from the life of the Prophet, which is recorded 300 years or 200 years after his life, narrated from a companion via a person, via another person, and going down 5 people. Right. Now, I'm going to even say that let us just for a moment overlook the fact that when that hadith was transmitted verbally across 5 people, that it didn't undergo any change. In other words, it could be perfectly relayed, and we know now that it's actually impossible to relay verbally information perfectly. Not ordinary human beings. Maybe if it's a computer or AI, whatever, but not ordinary human beings. So let's just overlook that for now. That whispers, Chinese whispers, doesn't come into play. Now we're saying, let's say it's the one Sahabi narrated the hadith, and that hadith was perfectly narrated and transmitted to the next and to the next to the next, and it came to the Bukhari, who wrote it down and compiled it in a book. So we now have Sahih Hadiths. We have now a book called Sahih Bukhari. We have Sahih Muslim. I want to point out something to you now at this point, and then you tell me what you make of it. And what I'm going to point out to you is not, I actually want to start by pointing out to you something that is very that is very, very mundane, very common, and that is contradictions between Bukhari and Muslim. Now let me show you a few, and it comes from the from some education department, some university, but it is available for you. You can just go through the books and you'll see these contradictions. Are 2 rakat after Asr prayer a good sunnah or a forbidden thing? Sahih Bukhari, volume 1, book 10. Allah's Messenger never missed 2 rakah before the Fajr prayer and after the Asr prayer, openly and secretly. That's in Bukhari. And then in Bukhari, book 1, number 567, the very next hadith, whenever the Prophet come to me after the Asr prayer, always used to pray 2 rakat. So after the Asr, prays 2. You offer, and then Sahih Bukhari, volume 1, you offer a prayer which I did not see being offered by Allah's Messenger when we were in his company, and he certainly had forbidden it, i.e. 2 rakah after Asr. Allah's Messenger forbade the offering of 2 prayers, after the morning prayer, after the Asr prayer. So basically, there's a huge contradiction. There's a huge discrepancy here. And they are both Sahih, they are both from Bukhari, they are both counted as perfectly, reliable hadiths. But this is not, I don't want to really spend so much time, because this goes on and it lists approximately like 50 or 60 hadiths that are contradictory, just between Bukhari and Muslim. Just between Bukhari and Muslim. Now, this is not looking at all the other 26 hadith compilations, This is just looking at 2 out of probably 30 compilations of hadith. It's just looking at the top 2, the pinnacle, the most highly regarded 2 books, Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim. And they find almost 100 contradictions. And these are not the works of anti-Islamic, Islamophobic people. These are, right? So are you still with me? You need to agree with me that what we see here are in fact contradictions. Now, I'm going to be fair. Right, here's another one, Sahih Bukhari. I'm just going to mention 1 or 2, I'm not going to go through the list. Narrated by Abu Huraira, 90 wives to the Prophet. Abu Huraira in book 15, 70 wives to the Prophet Sulaiman. Sahih Bukhari, Abu Huraira attributes 60 wives to the Prophet. So in fact, Abu Huraira alone, the same Sahabi, gives 80 wives to Sulaiman, 90 wives to Sulaiman, 60 wives to Sulaiman, and 70 wives to Sulaiman. Now, that type of contradiction is very easy to spot because it's a number. And, in the Qur'an itself, that is the type of test which is very amazing for the Qur'an, because the Qur'an also mentions the age of Nuh, the amount of sleepers in the cave. There's a lot of numbers being mentioned in the Qur'an also. And so the Qur'an is easy to catch that type of contradiction, and there are none. So let me get to the point of this. So my friends, if you believe something is divine, now here, let's apply our minds. If you believe the hadith is divine, if you, as I said earlier, Muslims are believing hadiths are divine. It is another source of law. And remember I said sahih hadiths, not weak hadiths. And hadiths ascribed to a companion is all as divine, the power of religious power, religious value, religious injunction, sacred injunction. And you find contradictions in it, like it's easy to show. And you find discrepancies in it. Then, don't you think we should go back to that verse, back to this verse here, and be honest and apply this verse? Do they not reflect on this Qur'an. Had it been from other than Allah, they would find many discrepancies therein. Now let's apply that same logic of this verse to the books of Bukhari and Muslim, right? And we're only dealing with those two right now. If you find discrepancies in those books, can we claim it is from Allah? Can we claim that those books are from God? Can we? Now, if you say yes, my brother and sister, then you need to argue, because this is the question you will be questioned. If you truly believe there is a final judgment, then you need to prepare your answer for God, not for me. I'm nobody. I'm just here to point out the information to you. You need to now argue, why did Bukhari say 60, Abu Huraira, 60 wives, 70 wives? You saw the contradictions. You saw the contradictions. And yet you continued to insist that this is the text, this is the message, this is the word of God, this is divine, the Hadith, the Sunnah. Now I'm not done. I'm going to give you the hardest shot right now. And this is what you need to answer. Because you see, I don't think Islam is really impacted by how many wives Sulaiman had, how many rakats, subuh, this, that, and the other. I don't think it makes a meaningful, and I'm sure you've thought about this, it doesn't meaningfully affect the religious core beliefs, right? These are tangential issues. These are peripheral. Yes, that's what you think. And by the way, before I get to the final, what do you call it, the home run or the kill shot, let me first tell you that I had this discussion with great prominent muftis and scholars, right? They come up with a word called ta'wil. And this very, very great friend of me, also a mufti, he said to me, we did grow apart, obviously, at some point in our lives. But we still maintained kind of like some sort of decent friendship and so on, collegiality. He says to me that, Anwar, when there's when there's an apparent contradiction in two hadiths, you need to make ta'wil. Now, what is ta'wil? Ta'wil means you need to explain it away. You need to find, and I'm being a bit, this is not the way he said it, but I'm explaining what ta'wil means. He said, then you must find a way to make it work. You must either account for the context. Like, 2 days ago, I had a video on women going to the mosque. The one said a woman going to the mosque is an adulteress. A woman wearing perfume and going to the mosque is an adulteress. And they explained it away by saying, no, it's actually excessive perfume. So that type of, that is ta'wil. It's like you add meaning to the hadith to make it rational. You are rationalizing it, in other words. And that is the word ta'wil that they use. But obviously, how do you use ta'wil when you say 60 wives, 70 wives, if the numbers are out? Right, so let's come to the home run, to the really kill shot, to what I believe is the ultimate debunking of hadith. Now, I said to you that I don't really see that the number of wives that Sulaiman had is a big issue, or 2 rakats is a big issue. But there is something that is a big issue, my friends. There is something that can damage the fabric of Islam if you allow the hadith to dictate to you what your Islam should be like. And let's be frank and honest. If you look at the Muslim world today, you find that they are largely asleep. There's a crime being committed in the heart of the Muslim world, and 80% of the Muslim world are fast asleep. They are inactive. Many of your young people are going to lose their faith in their religion because what they see there. And I'm here to help you restore your faith in your religion. Because what I'm saying is that your religion is not transmitted accurately. It's being misrelayed. It's relayed in a wrong way. And here's the kill shot. If you look at this particular fact in history, and we're looking now at Karbala. We're looking at Karbala. Just for a moment, let's stand still and look at this factual narration of Karbala. The question that we're asking here is, are there any Sahabi at the Battle of Karbala that participated in the massacre of Imam Hussein and his family? 82 or 83 people. In the year 61 after Hijrah, if you're not familiar with this history, a small party of under 100 companions of the Prophet, group, essentially family of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, confronted the king of the Muslims, Yazid, part of the Umayyad dynasty. And a small party of, it started out as a few hundred people, essentially family of the Prophet Muhammad, right? His grandson were also companions, Sahaba. They converged, they marched towards a town or a city called Kufa to take a stand against the king. The king, who was then recognized by the entire Muslim world, and his King Yazid, right? And he was a member of this house of Umayyah. Now, here comes the point. You have a Sahabi and Ahlul Bayt, because Ahlul Bayt means a member of the Prophet's own house, right? And he's a Sahabi also, and he's joined by another 50 or 80 Sahabis. And they converge, and at a place called Karbala, they are confronted by an army of 4,000 men. And the battle, obviously, the result is foreclosed. I mean, it's an expected result. The 80 or the 100 are massacred. Some of the women and some of the kids, they survive. But here comes the kill shot. And now, so the companions who fought with Hussein, they've narrated the story, right? So they've etched it in history by coming back and those who survived, like the sister of Hussein and so on. They came and they told the story. They were spared, you know. But here's the crucial point. What would you say if I tell you that on the other side, so these are the Sahabis that we know were at Karbala besides Hussein, right? They are Anas bin al-Harith, al-Kahili, Asad, all these names here. They fought on the side of Imam Hussein, which is great, which we expect. But now comes the kill shot. Here's the kill shot, and you need to explain this to me in the comments. Talk to me. Tell me where I'm wrong. Abdul Rahman al-Abza al-Khuzai, a companion of the Prophet, he was present in the troops of Ibn Ziyad who fought and killed Imam Hussein. The killers of Imam Hussein were also contained Sahabis, my friends. And now here's the crucial point. See some of the narrations of Hadith by him. Bukhari narrates from him. The man who kills the Ahlul Bayt, the man who kills Sahaba, the man who's part of the killing of Hussein, Shaydu Shuhada, as some people call him, the Lord, the doyen of martyrs. Al-Bukhari, he cited about the Tayammum, page 1, volume. He cited in Muslim Sahih Kitab al-Hayd in page 280. He is cited in Tirmidhi, Abu Dawud. Another one, Abdul Quddus Shabas. He was a companion who used to be once on the side of Ali bin Abi Talib, then joined the Khawarij and later was given command of the foot soldiers as part of the Ibn Ziyad's troop, the army that killed Hussein. And his narrations are in Abu Dawud, Sunan Kitabul Adab, in Nasa'i. My friends, do you see where this is going? Because now it's no longer about how many wives Sulaiman has. Now it is serious political, core, foundational matters that we are talking about. The killing of the family of the Prophet. The political stance of Islam. The political position that we should advance in Islam. Now you have the munafiqeen, the enemies of the Ahlul Bayt, the enemies of the Sahaba, the true Sahaba, giving hadiths in Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, etc., etc. Now, my friends, I want you to then sit for a moment and reflect. You will not believe in the New Testament. Why? You will not. Muslims don't generally accept the New Testament as valid divine text. Why? Because you don't know where is the corruption and where is the truth. And I'm just expressing this is the position of Islam. It's not, I have respect for the New Testament. But the fact is that we don't know where you are reading a line that could be interpolated. But yet you don't apply that standard to the Hadith. The Hadith contains words of people who murdered the Prophet's family. But yet you say, no, but you must look at this. Those are Sahih Hadiths, my friends. I come back to the original point, and I hope I've made the point. Allah has granted me the ability to make this point for you, because this is very important. I'm not here to play games. I'm not here to be on a trip to create chaos and misunderstanding and division. You see, division is there already. The division is there. We are trying to find why is there division? Why is there division? And the division that I am advancing, the argumentation that I'm advancing, is that the division is as a result of us not following the Qur'an and of us imposing alternative bodies of literature. Now the Qur'an says again, as I said earlier, do they not reflect on this Qur'an? Had it been from other than God, they would have found many discrepancies therein. Now I'm going to tell you now, and this is why you are a mushrik if you believe Hadith is the word of Allah. You are a mushrik if you believe Bukhari is the word of Allah. Yes, you are. I would be a mushrik if I do it. And I say once again, go to the comments of this video and put it down for me why you are not a mushrik if you believe something that has contradictions. Why are you not a mushrik when you believe something that contradicts not only with itself but also with the Quran? Why are you not a mushrik when you take hadiths and words and books that come from people who murdered the family of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam? So my friend, you need to tell me if I'm wrong. But I can tell you today that I've spent the better part of my life. I'm 60 years old. I'm not a young man. I've traveled, I've read, I've investigated the books. Don't come to me if you're like we say in Afrikaans, a snotkop, a snothead, and you've read one or two, you've watched one or two videos of some Salafi on the internet, and I don't want you to comment, because I don't think you are able to comment to me what I've investigated and researched. If you are a truly immersed scholar and you know your religion, then I want you to write to me in the comments and tell me where I'm wrong. And if you cannot, and the comments will speak for itself, I don't censor the comments, then you must accept that this whole hadith body of literature, and I'm not going to say it's garbage literature, books can't be garbage. Books, at the very least, you can make a fire with a paper. So, garbage is filth, and I think lies are filth, yes. So if there's lies, then it's filth. And I think when some people call it garbage, then they mean the words of liars. The words of liars would be garbage. But I would say that there is some benefit in those books. My friends, that's all I have to say for you now. But you need to debunk me in the comment section, and I wait for you, inshallah. And pass it on to any Maulana or Sheikh that you think could intelligently give me a rebuttal. Well, and I will publish whatever they say. I will leave it in the comments. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.